never do this. If you're gonna call someone a liar, never conflate being a liar with some random ass other condition you don't understand either. So I'm going to show you a video now made by someone else who basically goes through everything that this guy did and the story of this guy and kind of explain why none of this was evidence that he didn't have Tourette syndrome. Like, even if he did turn out to be faking it, like, you kind of have to be a piece of shit to do this speculatively to someone just in case they're faking. There's also a lot of stuff that might be really triggering for people with Tourette syndrome. If you have spent your whole life being doubted and attacked and, you know, all that serious shit that we go through, that I've yet to find a single person with Tourette's who hasn't gone through it, if you find that stuff really triggering and difficult to see, you might want to opt out of this one. I can say that I found this and I was like, oh, here we go.
I'm Tourette was a YouTuber who has stated that he deals with Tourette syndrome. Tourette syndrome, if you guys don't know, is a nervous disorder involving repetitive movements or unwanted sounds. Now, he claimed that he had severe Tourette syndrome. His contents were pretty unique because he would have videos kind of like ramen versus Tourette syndrome, cherry tomato versus someone with a Tourette syndrome. One day, there was a comment that was left by a user, and people thought this comment was very strange. His real name is Hong Jung-woo. He lives in Ulsan of Korea. He even released a hip-hop rap album. If you search his name on Korean streaming sites, the most recent release was just February 2019. Developing Tourette syndrome within 10 months seems impossible to me. Another commenter came forward and said, I live near him and I saw him a couple times.
Oh, I know him personally. I've known him in the past. He didn't have tics then. There are people saying, I saw him put out the trash. I live near him. I don't see him have tics. And the thing with that is that Tourette's fluctuates. So that's not proof. The reason being that it's well known and documented that you can have tics really consistently for like a week, a day, a month, and then have a few months where you don't. And that's a common thing. And also they're saying that he produces music, and interestingly enough, a really good example of this, nobody realized that Billie Eilish had Tourette syndrome without her coming forward and announcing it herself.
So people were claiming that he was using metal chopsticks, but people were claiming that usually people who suffer from Tourette syndrome, they usually use wood chopsticks or things that are less dangerous than metal, because like I said, metal you could poke in the eye. People found that to be pretty weird, like why are you putting yourself in such danger if you do have severe Tourette syndrome?
I use knives. I use sharp knives. When I created sea glass jewelry for my shop that I used to sell things on, I used to make sea glass beads as well that people bought. I used to drill through them with a diamond pointed drill, and if I went through the glass too fast, it would smash under the heat and send shards of glass into my face. But in my own day-to-day life, my way of managing my condition is to have these things and find coping strategies to make them as safe as possible. And it's no surprise to me that he's getting doubt just because he handled something that's considered dangerous.
So there's a video of him eating Hanu beef. Like, Hanu is actually a local raised Korean beef. So locally raised Korean beef is pretty expensive compared to just like regular imported beef. Now in the video where he's eating expensive Hanu beef versus eating cheap ramen, you could see the clear differences of the symptoms showing up. People were saying that when he's eating expensive things, his symptoms just seems to not affect him and mysteriously disappear. But when he's seen eating ramen, his symptoms seems to be a little bit different.
Noodlehead! If I give you a tray with loads of bottled water on it and say, could you carry this around for me and go and give this to people, then you'd be fine. But if I put loads of like champagne dishes, like loads of glasses of champagne on the same tray, and it's like, this represents £10,000 worth of champagne, don't spill it, you'd be way more focused. It's well documented that you tick less when you're focused. And when a dude has a bunch of really fragrant meat in front of him and he's excited about eating it and he's slowly cooking it and there's a process behind preparing it, that requires so much more focus than moving noodles from a bowl into your mouth. But also on a side note, none of that might be weighing on him. Like, when you have Tourette's, one day you might have loads of tics for no reason, and another day you might have barely any for no reason. So he might have had a really bad day when he was eating the ramen and a really good day when he was cooking the other food.
I mean, let me know if you think this guy's acting or if this guy is just kind of exaggerating. I mean, whatever it might be. I personally am not really educated about this specific condition.
And this is another reason why I decided to come forward and talk about it, because I realized that a lot of people who make content, like there are people responding to my content and reacting to my content who accuse me of faking, going, that's not Tourette's, and things like that, just because it doesn't fit their stereotype of Tourette syndrome. I didn't see any reaction videos to this. I didn't see anyone creating any content to kind of set the record straight and say that none of the things raised so far actually prove that someone is faking. They're just a misunderstanding about how the condition works.
On January 6th, he uploaded an apology video. On this video, he claimed that he actually does have Tourette syndrome, but he was just intensifying his condition. Now, he actually showed up a prescription receipt paper that he got from the pharmacy and the doctors who actually try to prove himself that he actually does have this condition. But the strange thing was that in this prescription paper, the date was written as January 6, 2020, which was basically that day when he made the apology video. Second weird thing, the prescription amount was given only to last 7 days. People were calling out that people with Tourette syndromes usually get prescribed like 30 days or even a couple months because this is a condition, a continuous conditions that you have to treat and deal with.
If he doesn't have any prescription for Tourette's like medications, but he wanted to prove to people that he does have Tourette's, it may well have occurred to him, maybe I should go and get a prescription for my condition to show people that I've been diagnosed. And then so it may well have been that he wasn't on the medication before. A lot of people who have Tourette syndrome, if it's late onset, then you won't have anything from earlier because it came on later. So if he's had Tourette syndrome for 10 months, for example, which is totally possible, he won't have anything older to show anyone. It's really doubtful that you could just get Tourette's medication just because you asked for it in half an hour with a doctor. I have very strong doubts about that, but then I can't give you a concrete answer about that either because I don't know what things are like in his particular country.
Where there was a tab open to search for a Tourette syndrome medicine. People were saying that someone like him who's supposedly been dealing with the condition for a long time should not even have to search for medicine.
That's a total fucking lie! Because if I don't know anything about the medication that I might be put on, I'm gonna Google it first. Of course you research shit. He may well have even Googled it after he got the prescription to understand whether or not it had more side effects than he was being told. I do that all the time. That's not evidence either. So speculatively saying you should know all about Tourette syndrome drugs if you've got Tourette syndrome is fucking weird. I mean, you've all had organs your whole fucking life, but a bunch of you can't tell me where your fucking appendix is.
People just don't understand this bizarre behavior of uploading the videos, taking it down, privating it, publicing it. Is he trying to prove a point? Is he trying to prove a point that he actually does have Tourette syndromes by uploading and then taking down the videos? It seems like he was pretty
Or maybe some days you feel more stressed than others. Some days you are under a lot more pressure than others. Maybe the panic and the pressure of being doubted and accused constantly all day, every day, and how much hate came with it made him really rethink whether or not he wanted to be a content creator, made him really rethink whether he wanted to be exposed to this all the fucking time, and the health burdens, the mental health burdens that come with it. So this isn't evidence either. So far, there's been no fucking evidence. The strongest piece of evidence so far, I think, if I heard her correctly, was that he said that perhaps he was playing up his symptoms.
Maybe, I mean, he has some other conditions that we don't know about. I mean, maybe he really does deal with schizophrenia or some other mental conditions that he has not released. But it seems like he's like the boy who cried wolf.
Never do this. If you're gonna call someone a liar, never conflate being a liar with some random ass other condition you don't understand either. Like, maybe he's lying because he has that condition or this condition. None of those conditions inherently make you lie about having conditions. Like, that's not like a known consistent symptom of anything, you know? Like, ooh, that's so fucking mean. Not just to that person, but also to anyone with mental health issues. So if you're going to say stuff, I'm not gonna come at her because she just doesn't understand. I don't think she's saying that maliciously, and I definitely encourage you not to give her any shit whatsoever for this, because I genuinely think that she is probably just reporting on what she's hearing. The purpose of me talking about this is not to direct hate at anyone. It's literally to help people understand Tourette's better, help people treat each other more fairly and kindly, and to help stop people doubting each other over things that shouldn't cause doubt.
At the same time, I do understand that, you know, certain creators believe that they need to do certain things in order to keep up with that hype. And that's kind of true, because I feel like a lot of people don't watch certain videos if it's not hyped up or if it's not wild and intense, and I feel like creators are pushed to make something bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger just to get people's views and attention. So in that case, I do believe why certain creators will go into extreme length for—
Okay, so that's another thing. People speculate as to the benefits of having Tourette syndrome in the public eye, and this is the biggest one I wanted to address. So being a content creator with a condition is hell. Absolute hell. It is not beneficial at all. It is a massive hindrance. I'll give you some examples of why it really scuppers me on a daily basis. So I like to do just chatting, where I engage with my audience and I talk to them. I get the same questions every single day. I feel like a broken record. I am forced to repeat myself over and over, which means that it's very rare, and it's probably a lot less repeat subscribers and people who have been watching me long term than people who are new, because there's no reason to stay if you're just going to hear the same thing over and over. And so that's a massive barrier to me having chat interaction live. Also, if you don't want anyone about your condition, then people jump in and get really angry with you because they're like, why are you saying all these offensive words? Why isn't she cancelled yet? She just said something homophobic or whatever, and they don't realize that I can't help it. But if I warn people and I put it in the title, people hate me and think I'm capitalizing on a condition, and they think that I'm literally just trying to flaunt it to get money and sympathy out of people. And so I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't, and the overwhelming discussion about that completely distracts from the content at hand. I could make a video about a fucking beach ball, and everyone in the comments will be arguing about my Tourette syndrome. If your characters constantly come under question because you have a condition that people constantly are suspicious of and looking for signs that you're faking or trying to manipulate them, then it's much more difficult to relate to people because they're on guard and constantly suspicious. So it's not beneficial, and it's not easy to succeed as a streamer when you have Tourette syndrome. And it's very similar for YouTubers and other content creators too.
Hi all, my name's Glenn, I've got Tourette's. And I'm going to read you some of the comments that I get on a daily basis. You so fake, it's sad. You deserve to die.
Bullshit, made up nonsense. I mean, these people are so small-minded. Like, fuck.
I think 80% of your words are fake. You're doing it to be funny because you can get away with it.
And to all those people that say that I am faking my texts, well, I promised that I would never fake a disorder, so please, if you are hating on my account, please can you just leave and not comment stuff like that, because it can make people's mental health go downhill very quickly. Thank you, bye.
So, yeah, this is one of many people. She's facing the same level of doubt and suspicion that we all do, and she's had to make a video about it and asking people to stop. We all go through this phase. Another example about a person who's been accused of faking Tourette's so much that they have trouble not believing it themselves.
It f***ed me up so much that I have signed documents from trained neurologists that have been doing this for like decades on decades, who officially diagnosed me with Tourette's. I have those papers up. Anybody can view them right. If you're in my chat, you can go view my diagnostic papers right now. And to this day, because of how much shit I get online about it, I'll sit there and be like, oh, I haven't ticked in an hour. Am I faking? It's so crazy. Go get him. how bad they f***ed with my mental when every logical reason to believe myself exists. That's all there and that's solid concrete evidence. But because of one or two comments, I'm like f***ed mentally.
So this is something that I didn't know whether or not I was going to talk about, but fuck it. I don't want to admit to feeling the same way because I know that people will use it against me. And I feel like if I admit that it's ever gotten to me, that it would be like admitting people are right. But people have accused me of being fake so often that I've had exactly the same thoughts. I've been like, is this real? And I'll doubt myself even though I know it is. I'll doubt myself even though right next to me in the top drawer to my right, there's loads of medical documents about, you know, my condition, right? And yet I still have self-doubt and it's really, really fucking hard. When people are suspicious, they have this thing called a confirmation bias. And it sucks because it means that when you're looking for things, little clues that something's true, you'll find them. This is how wrongful convictions happen. Sometimes there are detectives and police officers who are so convinced of someone's guilt that everything they do is a sign of their guilt. If they're shuffling, it's because they're nervous because they're lying and things like that, when really maybe they're just nervous because they're in a room full of people who hate them and are suspicious of them. But, you know, we interpret everything around us through the filter of how we expect the world to be. So the minute you suspect someone of having Tourette's syndrome, you're more likely to perceive everything they do as a clue that they're faking their condition. So when I saw this article, I really did want to speak out because, to be honest, I don't care whether or not he is or isn't faking Tourette's syndrome. The way that people have approached this is how they treat everyone with Tourette's syndrome. Everyone. The things he came under suspicion for are the things that everyone comes under suspicion for who has Tourette's syndrome. And the problem is that the doubt makes you isolated, suicidal. It means that you get ostracized, and all it takes is a little bit of understanding. A lot of this kind of reporting is common, really sadly common, but these are all the reasons why it proves nothing. And it's relentless. So I thought I'd just in detail help people understand the situation a little bit better.